Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Follow Brand Podcast. I am your host, Grant McGaw, and today we are joined by a powerhouse entrepreneur, investor, and marketing innovator in Eric Huberman. He is the founder and CEO of Hawke Media and the founding partner of Hawke Ventures. Now, Eric has built one of the most recognized performance marketing companies in the country by challenging the traditional agency model and asking a bold question. And I like this, a bold question. What if businesses could access world-class CMO level marketing expertise without all the overhead, the rigidity, and unnecessary complexity? That question became Hawke Media. Now, he is also an author of the Hawke Method, where he breaks marketing down into three essential principles. They are awareness, nurturing, and trust. And in a world where marketing is constantly changing through AI, analytics, and shifting customer behavior, Eric remains one of the clearest voices on how brands can grow intelligently. So, this conversation is about more than just marketing. It is about entrepreneurship, discipline, reinvention, leadership, and building something real in a very noisy world. So, with that, I want to bring Eric to the stage. Welcome to the Follow Brand Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we got to get you started, right? That origin story. When people are begging for, what's the background after all that I just said? They're like, this guy sounds very interesting, right? So, give us your origin story. Like, how did you get into this business?
Yeah, I mean, I made fun of marketing majors in college and never thought that I was going to be in this, but then graduated, went into real estate a week to the day before Lehman Brothers collapsed and the whole banking industry. And that was not going to be a long-lived career unless I really wanted to make no money. I made $350 my first year out of college. So started kind of scrambling and looking for what to do and ended up launching, long story short, an online music company that I built for 2 years, got profitable, hired a CEO to take over. And then after that, jumped into subscription e-commerce really early, launched a men's t-shirt subscription site called Swag of the Month, sold that a year and a half later, and then joined an incubator called Science that had just launched a company called Dollar Shave Club, helped them with that, helped them with their portfolio companies, got focused on launching a women's activewear brand with them, another long story short, and sold that a year later to Bally Total Fitness, started advising, consulting, saw how broken the marketing world is. I mean, at this point, there's 90,000 marketing agencies in the US, and I would say about 99% of them are full of shit. And the few that are any good are,
Yeah, yeah.
and the few that are any good are, the majority of those go up market and only want to work with the Fortune 2000. So you're good luck finding an incredible agency that's established and reputable that will work with growth stage companies. And I thought that was crazy. Why isn't there an agency that's the best at what they do and easy to work with? And that became our mission statement. And now 12 years later, we're 220 or so people, have worked with over 6,000 brands, currently managing marketing for about 600, acting as their outsourced CMO and marketing team.
I love that. Now, you said something that got my full attention.
Yeah.
You said 99% of the marketing companies, of those 90,000
Yeah.
agencies, are not very good. Why is that? What is the
Yeah.
fundamental flaw that you see?
There's no barrier to entry, so there's no license. I mean, this is what's crazy. Like I think we're managing $700-800 million a year of other people's money, and we have no oversight, no regulation, nothing. Like, not that I'm pretty fiscally conservative. Like, I'd rather not have it, but at the same time, you're like, it's, CPA. There's a bar exam. There's 230 something regulated industries in California, including milk delivery
Mhm.
and hair salons. You need a cosmetology license to cut someone's hair, but
Right.
I can manage this kind of money and nothing, no education, no proof, no license, nothing. So that's part of the problem. Is it's one of the industries that is very lucrative, but also there's no stopping anyone from just saying I'm a marketing person. So when I say there's 90,000 agencies, because there's 90,000 people that just said, "Oh, I run an agency," and if a good majority of them have conned people into giving them their money. And I say conned because, to me, if you're going to sell your expertise and you're not an expert, that's a con. That
Mhm.
to me is just And that's where the passion for this comes in, is after running several companies and seeing how crazy it is out there, building a solution to that with us, you're going to get the best practices, you're going to get trained people, you're going to get a level of expertise that you can rely on. Marketing is still a moving target, and it's still, there's no guarantees in it, but it's amazing how many people just like don't even go in the right direction and waste money. We have lots of people that'll, oh, we decided to go with an agency that's more local to us, or this agency was a little cheaper. And then 6 months later, they're broke. They're out of money. They blew everything. People really don't seem to comprehend the opportunity cost side of marketing. Like I always explain, like if we're managing $50,000 a month in your ad spend, maybe we're charging 5 to 10,000 bucks a month. That 50,000 has to turn into 200 to 250 grand for it to make any sense. And we'll have people go, we went with the 4 grand option instead of your 5 grand option. I'm like, so you saved $1,000 on something that needs to produce $250,000, hoping that
Right.
they were treating it like a commodity. It's that kind of decision making that actually allows these agencies to exist, because you can be on this hamster wheel where you just sell through whatever you're churning through, and you have these 3 month relationships that happen. And I've seen there's thousands of those agencies. So I know that's a very long-winded answer, but
No, I want the audience to really understand this because it's a big investment. It's a big
yeah,
investment.
totally.
You're expecting a outcome, an ROI. You're like, hey, if
Yep.
I give you 5, I should get at least 15 back. But it's like,
Yep. Yep.
there should be a definite uptick, especially or in that 90-day period of
And a lot of
time.
people make that decision based on the 5, not the 15. And so
There you
that
go.
that creates this, demand for these, startup agencies everywhere, where they're just churning through people's money, and it takes months to figure out that they're just churning through your money. And so that ends up being where they thrive. The other attraction is like guys like Gary Vaynerchuk and a lot of other people have made this. Ty Lopez have made this, not to put them in the same vein. I like Gary. Ty is a con artist and finally seems to be getting what's coming to him. Um, the they have made this sort of sex appeal to running an agency that all these people go, oh, that's where I can make my millions. They think it's a get rich quick scheme, and so that combined with the no barrier to entry, combined with the demand for it, here you have this crazy industry.
I love what you're saying there because I want people to really lean in because I think a lot of companies struggle to balance, I call it short term, performance marketing with long term brand
Yeah.
building. And, you've got to understand what it is that you're doing in this
Yeah.
world. Now, in your book, you simplify marketing into awareness, nurturing, and trust. Of those
Yep.
three, where do you think most brands fail today? And what does it take to
Yeah.
get that piece right?
I think they fail in nurturing for the most part. Most
Mm,
people think of marketing as the awareness piece, which is advertising, PR, get your name out there, let new people know you exist. And then trust is, a lot of people do intuitively. They're like, either they drive word of mouth, or they try to talk to people, or they get reviews and testimonials and influencers, like, people to give them credibility. The nurturing part is where people really miss out, because, like, easy example, you're talking about the short term, like, what's your sales cycle? Like, from the time when you let someone know you exist, the awareness piece, to when they actually buy, how long does that take? Because a lot of people, this is really funny. You'll look at your like daily report in your Facebook ads to be like, oh, well, how much did we spend today? How much did we make? Well, the average sales cycle is over a month.
mhm.
So to look at it on a daily basis is not short of stupid, honestly, because you're looking at it like, and the reason I say that so bluntly is it's not because I have an expertise in marketing. Everybody understands this. No, we're all consumers too. When you go buy something, it's not you saw an ad, you bought it, you converted, you're done. It's you think about it, there's consideration period, all that. And we all know intuitively that's the case. And yet when we go to look at our marketing, because it can be teed up in this dashboard that shows you monthly or weekly and daily spend and daily performance, you think that's how you should be managing it. And it's completely wrong. And
Mhm.
so you've that's the part that people miss, is that period from when their customers are introduced to the brand to when they actually buy, doing a lot there to make sure that you speed up that conversion process and increase the likelihood of conversion. And that's where email marketing and SMS and content and all the other things come in, retargeting.
No, all those things are important because I've got this stat and it floored me. And he said, I don't think a lot of companies understand that. Your customers, and you kind of alluded to it, 97%, and many of you may be even more than that, of your clients are not in a buy now mode. That's
Mhm.
important to understand. And you just
Totally.
said that you're not in a buy now mode. So is your marketing, if your marketing is going to a buy now mode where 97% of the people aren't ready to buy, you got some misalignment with your messaging. Would you agree with that?
Yep. That's 100% what I'm saying.
So we got to nail that portion of it. Where is your most of your clients at in the buy cycle through the entire sales process? You call that nurture. You got to get awareness going,
Yep.
nurture it before you get to that conversion. Everybody goes awareness, consideration, and then conversion. But
Yeah.
if you're
Right.
not
And the
real,
nurturing is what you do during that consideration period. That's the
yeah.
and post purchase too. Like lifetime value is so much more important than first purchase now that what are you doing to actually keep that person coming back and continuing to buy?
hmm And once you hook them, obviously you want to keep them, right?
Yeah,
When it starts, because it's such a long, expensive process of
exactly.
acquiring, the cost to acquire a client or a customer is very expensive. You should be your biggest cost when it comes to that. And then
Yep.
of course you want to keep them. Now, with Hawk, I understand AI processing data, talking about artificial intelligence now,
Yep.
processing data across thousands, thousands of brands.
Yep.
What patterns right now are you seeing that most marketers, in your opinion, still miss?
Still miss is a hard one. I mean, again nurturing still that same answer, but I would say what's changed a lot is the need to do everything. Like there was a period up until I'd say a couple years ago where you could run Facebook ads and then use email marketing and you could build a company that way. And now you've got to actually go back to almost the basics, but the complicated basics, where it's like you have to basically, yes, do email, yes, do advertising, and make sure your website's optimized, and make sure you're getting the name out there in PR, and make sure you're throwing events and building relationships. Like it is so noisy these days. You have to
Mhm.
fight to get that attention, and that's a big one. Like you have to really, really, really like yeah, fight to get that attention, fight to get to get eyeballs and to keep them because there's just so much inundation.
100%, because anybody now, because of the proliferation of AI and then AI tools and skill sets, that you can create copy, you can create text, you can create audio, you can create video very easily and very quickly and less expensive than you could before. But now, of course, what you just said, that also creates a lot more noise out in the marketplace, right?
Yep.
How do you get your ideal client, your ICP, your ideal client profile to actually see you, right? Because if your value is not visible to them, they can't take advantage of it, right?
Yep.
That's a big deal, I think, right now, because you've got to get above so much other distractions that could be out there. So, what do you think that AI, especially now, how will the AI separate the next generation of winners from everyone else?
Yeah, I think AI is very overhyped right now.
Mhm.
Very. And I don't mean overhyped in terms of the future. How do I put it? Well, it is overhyped there too, but it's going to change a lot of the way we do things. Do I think white collar jobs are going away in the next year? No, I think that's idiotic to say. And I think I can't remember who just said that. It might have been the Perplexity guy, someone that just came out and said that. It's like that's if you're like you're so if you're either doing that from a marketing standpoint, which fine, respect it, do what you want to do. I prefer integrity and honesty. But if it's not out of just I'm trying to sell people in this and you actually believe that, you're in such a bubble, you're screwed. Like, and that's how I look at those statements because we're implementing it all the time. We have zero resistance here to using AI. We've been building it ourselves for a decade. There's a
Mhm.
ton it can do, but it's an augmentation. I equate it to the internet, honestly. It feels like the internet or even iPhones. Like it's like, yeah, if we had, we didn't know about the iPhone till the day it was announced. It was well done and they kept it secret. So, and even when it was announced, you start to pontificate on all the things it could end up changing and doing. And we had no idea that it would be this thing that now, like, basically our entire life and social life lives in
Yeah.
this thing. No idea. And so it's the same thing with AI is like, we're so over focused on this thing that's coming because what the current state is, you know, it's like having, a 17-year-old intern following you around is how I feel about AI. Like it's
Yeah.
helpful, but like God, it screws up a lot. And God, you have to guide it well. And you almost have to spend as much time figuring out. Like I just had this conversation with another agency owner like
Yeah.
an hour ago about another friend of ours. It's like, I've built 35 agents and I'm doing all these things. Right, cool. And your business hasn't grown at all. So like congratulations. You've wasted a ton of your fucking time. You're not more profitable. You don't have higher revenue. This doesn't actually have any practical implementations. It's just the yeah, it's just exciting, which sure, cool, have fun. There won't, do I think that there's probably some benefits to using this stuff and getting native to it? Yes. But it'd be similar to getting native to the internet in 1995. Like if you don't have other priorities, sure, go spend all your time figuring it out. Maybe you'll start the next Amazon. But if you're running a business right now or you're doing stuff like use the stuff that's already working and like use it, use Quad, use ChatGPT, use these things, but use them in the right ways. Don't try to be the most innovative person in that because you're chasing the shiny object and you end up wasting a ton of time. And it never moves as fast as people think it's going to. One of my favorite references is they actually quote this in Silicon Valley, the TV show. Uh, in the late 1800s, they were trying to calculate all the use of horses. And they said, by 1950, they predicted there would be 9 feet of horse shit on every street in every major city in the US because they never could have thought about the car. So now we're thinking like all jobs are going to go away and people are just going to sit around. No, this is going to create new jobs. It's going to make people more efficient, which means they're going to produce more and we're going to have more output, which is going to allow for more. Will allow for maybe people that don't want to work or do anything to do that? Yes, but I think that's not I don't think people are made for that. From like the deep depths of our biology, we've always had to wake up and hunt eat what we kill and do the
Sure.
hunter
Sure.
gatherer is the whole thing. That like the idea that like we're gonna get a point where everyone's just gonna sit around. No, like I think currency might change. What those jobs are will change. And maybe it'll be highly creative. Maybe it'll be everyone has some sort of entertainment factor. Whatever it is, something's going to shift there, but it's going to happen slowly too.
I
It was
100% agree with what you're saying
yeah,
because, it's hard to predict the future. It's about the adoption. How will human behavior change? As you stated, like with the cell phone had been around for a long time. I remember the cell phones actually came out in the 1980s, right? But
yeah,
mass adoption really didn't take place until like 15 years later in 90, 95. And I think that was because it could do more than just take a phone call. Now you had data on top of it, and in the birth of the smartphone, getting to your point around, all of a sudden this Apple device came out and like, hey, I now can walk around with a small computer basically that has a
yeah,
lot of applications, not just one. Agentic AI, and I've been in information technology for 30, 35 years. I've seen a
yeah,
lot of tech come out and I've seen a lot of things, get adopted. Usually the biggest stumbling block when people don't realize that is training. Training. It's very easy. Like, and I used to sell a lot of telephone systems. Give you a little background on me. And these large enterprise systems. Some of them we went from analog to digital to voice over IP. Adoption, human behavior is very, very difficult to gauge because if you're used to doing a certain thing a certain way and the workflow and the work processes are already built around it, just because you introduce a new technology doesn't mean they're going to adopt that. They may use
yeah,
parts of it, some of it, not all of it. There's a lot of capability. So many people have Salesforce. How many people use all of Salesforce's capabilities? Probably not. You use a certain portion of it. So I think it's going to be in that world. It's going to be there. It's a game changer without question because it can speed things up. You can communicate quicker, right? And you can scale. But to your point, are you just shifting responsibility to something else that doesn't really move the needle? That's a
right,
big, big point you just made because you can
exactly.
automate everything and get nothing.
Yep, and that's exactly we're also saying that there's that propensity. There's also the propensity to like I remember right when ChatGPT came out, like it was November of 22 or December, whatever it was, and I had friends and their agencies telling me, and this goes back to how many agencies are shit. We replaced our whole content team overnight. We're just using ChatGPT. I'm like, wow, you must have had a terrible content team. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, that was ChatGPT 3. That was like it was not there. And we're still in that place where like I'm hearing people like we replaced our whole SDR team with AI. I'm like, do you know how fucking annoying it is to hear from an AI SDR? Like they're terrible. I'm sorry, they're not there. Will this all over time potentially morph there? Maybe, but here's the predict. Like this is a good example of where this goes south. If everyone starts using AI SDRs, then everybody's phones are flooded and everybody stops answering and just gets annoying because you're just getting calls all day. So that's where, and then regulation kicks in. Like things happen. Like it doesn't just, it's not this linear track of like, oh, we do this and it's just normal. No, because everybody else does that too. So you're
Yeah.
not differentiating at that point. And so
Mhm.
that's why we look at like, where do we have unique specific advantages like the data platform we built, where it's like nobody else has this. This makes us more powerful. This is where we can win. And then where do we have things where we're like, oh yeah, that is kind of nice. Like creating decks. Yeah, use AI. Like it's like there's things that like tasks that you can have it do that this is where I feel for like recent college grads. Because again, AI is kind of like that 17 to 20-year-old intern. And so you don't need 17 to 20-year-old interns as much anymore.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of the learning curve. We're on this learning curve of where this thing fits,
Yeah.
and we're going to learn it. Now, I'm going to shift the conversation just a little bit because you've emphasized that Hawk was built with no outside funding and no debt, right? I think that's a very big thing because when you're an entrepreneur and you have limited resources, you can't afford to just R&D everything. Take chances like that because you have to have a very, high probability of success in what you're doing. My
Yeah.
question to you is this: how did bootstrapping shape your decision-making culture and appetite for risk compared with founders who raise, money aggressively?
Uh, Good question. The risk is different. So I see this right now. There's a big company I didn't invest in that is now, and it happens when you overraise. So they got all the hype, they raised it to high valuation, and now they have to grow into that valuation. So they have to take outsized risk. And I a lot of times I have an issue with the way risk is used with entrepreneurship because to me, like building this business, I think because I'm bootstrapped, the risk was mitigated significantly. I don't have anyone else waiting for their returns, looking for growth targets, waiting for it to hit something. So like if I have a bad year, I make a little less money. If I have a good year, I make a little more. That's there's the risk. And even when you try, okay, so now we're at that stable place, but let's take it back 12 years.
Yeah.
The risk of will this work and will it succeed? Well, if you don't have any outside capital or any debt, the only way a business fails is either they get underwater financially or the leadership gives up. That's it. There's no other reason. So as long as I'm retained, meaning I want to keep doing this and it's entertaining me and I don't have a better opportunity, I'm not burnt out, those kind of things. And I don't get underwater financially, which without debt or some crazy, office lease I can't afford or something, will be all right. Then it's just about living, being conservative. Like this is a good example. I've been thinking about expanding our office significantly, and my entire team, I've built the culture. They're like, don't do it. Like, well, it's a great opportunity. They're like, yeah, but we don't need it yet. I'm like, but we might need it in 6 months. We might. And in 6 months, we'll figure it out. If that office is gone, like it's like this is the tone. And so I've built a culture of that where it's like, don't, because they know like if we make a bad move, people lose their jobs. Like things go bad. It's a problem. So you end up with a very even though like I think most people from the outside, because of cliches, would say you took the risk to get there. I'm like, I gave up the idea of working for someone else and maybe getting fired because they had a bad day and just put it on myself. Like, I think a lot of people don't want the responsibility. I don't know that risk is the word. I don't get to turn off at night. If there's a problem, it's on me and I get to stay up and fix it. And like, I get to deal with the biggest issues of the company all the time. That's on me because the worst case scenario for an employee is you got to get another job, which sucks, but it's not as bad as losing everything. And so, there's definitely more at stake with entrepreneurship and more demand, and it's harder for sure. But I don't know that it's riskier.
I like that. Now I'm gonna look at this from a venture lens, right? Because you've got Hawke Ventures as well, and you've invested in a lot of startups
Totally.
and some technologies and marketing.
Yep.
So when you evaluate a company, what tells you that a funder or founder, I should say, has a real growth engine versus just a
Yeah.
good pitch deck? I think people need to know that.
Yeah. There's an energy that you have to like, and I hate like, I, there's so many people that would love to like create an objective rubric of how this would work. But at the end of the day, there's a level of like grit and energy that you can get from a founder that they have to have because back to the point, they're either gonna if I don't have to, there's two variables. Is the founder gonna give up and are they gonna run out of money?
Mhm.
So let's start with the founder. Make sure this is someone that's not going to give up because I've had it. I've had great companies where the founder gave up. COVID, we started investing. I mean, I've been investing since 2015, and COVID, we had a one in particular that just had the best opportunity in the world to build something with COVID, and instead stuck their head in the sand and missed the whole thing and blew up the company. So, or ran it and then ran out of money. But it was the founder giving up, is what that felt. And then just hoping that they're responsible enough with money, because I've had another founder that like guy would run through a fucking wall, but he tried to run through the wrong wall and blew, a huge amount of funding and bankrupted the whole company like overnight. So,
Wow.
you deal with it's this balance of you want someone that you like, you can't have a rational, sane founder. Like just down the fairway, easy. Like there's got to be something wrong with you. Like I even talk like I laugh about it because I'm in like YPO and a bunch of founders groups, and like, I could sell this all today and retire and move to Mexico or hang out, or I say Mexico because we got a place there, but like my wife and
Yeah.
I joke about the taco shop fantasy. Like let's just live on the beach and open a taco shop, and we've got enough money now to go live that life.
Yeah.
But I don't want to because I'm here to achieve. I want to build something world class. Like I'm not doing this to pay the bills. That thankfully that level of Maslow's hierarchy ended about 12 years ago when I started the company. I haven't been
Mhm.
worried about my personal finances since I started Hawke. So now it's like, how do I build something crazy and world class and massive and really, change the world with this thing? And that's what drives me. And so one of the best lines I got by a guy that advised for our first fund named Paige Craig, a really great angel investor and now venture investor. And he said, always invest in the ambition of the founder. So if
Mhm.
a founder is telling me, like we just dealt with this, we were looking at following on a company and they were celebrating that they hit, a small milestone of like, they hit, I think it was $1 million in revenue. And I was like, yeah, cool. Like that's great. Celebrate. I actually am not that good at celebrating the small wins. So I was like, good for you. You hit 1 million, but like you've raised some good money. You've got to get this to like 50. Like, so what is your timeline looking like? Because I was like, if they are celebrating going from like 1 to 2 next year,
Yeah.
we are not investing anymore. If they're saying they're going from 1 to 3, we can talk about it. And then we got the number back and it was like 1 to 6. Like,
Mhm.
okay, this is a vest. Like that, as long as that's what they're aiming for, because that's the other piece is, you may not always hit your goals, but by nature, by aiming at them, you're going to
Yeah.
make different decisions to get
You're gonna
there.
get all, yeah, you're gonna get all the grit, like you said,
Yeah.
everything that you have in the tank, you're gonna just put it out on the field. I
Yep.
think that's important. I gotta ask this question because I can hear
Yep.
my audience already asking me here. All right, you gave us a little bit of that origin story, but how did you build the brand? Give us that point where you just saw it, you were grinding, you got it to and then it just took off. I mean that point, that's what people like, that point of change.
There wasn't It was just day by day for 12 years. Like it's just grown and grown and grown. And there's been harder days and harder weeks and harder years. And there's been easier days, weeks, years, but it's just one foot in front of the other from day one. And there isn't like some hockey stick, just like, oh, boom. It just there it
Yeah,
was. And
yeah,
I've had many times I thought it was going to be the thing. Like we have our best-selling book, The Hawke Method. Like I thought this is taught in a bunch of Ivy League MBA programs, and I thought that was going to put us on the map. And nope, I mean, listen, it has an effect, but it's not the thing. Then we had a TV show with Cedric the Entertainer and Anthony Anderson helping them launch the barbecue brand on
yeah,
A&E and on Hulu. We have our own TV show. This is going to be huge. I'm going to be like the Marcus Lemonis or, Mark Cuban. This is going to be huge.
yeah.
Nobody watched the show. So it's like, or I shouldn't say nobody, but like
All right, it
it
wasn't as big
wasn't,
as you thought.
it
Yeah.
was the best impact that had was taking the clips from the show and running it in our own content, our own ads.
Mm.
So you do these things where you think you're gonna have an impact and you just keep trying, and then each of those things do something small. But I'm working on a massive deal right now that if I ran the numbers my optimistic self says this could legitimately double our business, like this
Yeah.
very specific deal. How it's going to actually work out? Probably 10 or 20% growth. Like, just to be real. Like, it's like, I think it'll have an impact, but I don't think it's going to be like the game changer. And, we'll have this conversation. It's just doing so many of those all the time and constantly pushing that you just edge through this stuff. It's very rarely is it like this one thing.
Now, let me ask you this. Based on what you just said, would you invest in yourself?
Yeah, I do all the time because this is actually a good piece of advice I got. By every day, by not selling, I'm making the decision to buy.
Mm.
Like, let's, whatever hot, like round numbers, I'm not saying it actually is. Let's say we're worth 100 million bucks. By not going and selling the company, I'm making the decision to invest $100 million in Hawke right now.
Right, right, right.
So it's that kind of, thought. And I think about that all the time with different aspects, different investments too. This came up because I was talking to a very bright investor friend of mine, and I'm trying to remember which business it was, but I was like, I'd already cashed out my initial investment. So I'm like, it's house money now. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I invested 50 grand. I already made my 50 grand back. I'm letting the rest ride. He's like, no, that's not house money. That's your fucking money. What are you talking about? He's like, and I think it was worth 150 grand. So he's like, that
Yeah.
$100,000 that you chose not to take off the table is you making the decision to invest $100,000 in that today. So like every investment I look like the only caveat to that is taxes. So
Hmm.
like right now, I think the S&P is, and it's ripping again today. I think
Yeah.
it's very high. Over the next 10 years, it'll be higher, I'm sure. But if it were, a next 2 year decision, I would bet on the S&P being lower in the next 2 years at some point, and definitely not having 9-10% returns, which I can get in other places. So if it wasn't for the government taking 50% of my gains that I've had the past 5 years, I would sell that right now and put it into other things. So taxes are what stop people from moving stuff around in that sense. But thank you being in California too. But other than that, when it comes to my own company, et cetera, it's always that piece that you have to think about. Is like I could sell this today, so instead I'm making that investing decision. Same thing with any venture deal. By not going to market with this, by not getting bought out in that next round, you're making the decision to invest again. And if it's venture, which like we have other people's money, you're making that decision on behalf of other people too.
I want you to give some advice, especially to entrepreneurs in general, business people that own their own companies, right? Or starting on a journey. Because there's one thing to understand what you do, whether maybe you're in marketing, maybe
Yep.
you own an auto shop, or maybe you're into car dealerships, whatever it may be. That financial conversation, the business, or they say the language of business is finance. How did you get that acumen? When did you start learning and really understanding the financial
Yep.
world and how to operate? Because as you said, you could crash and burn because you didn't run the numbers correctly or you took some big risks.
Yeah.
Help us understand that.
A few things. One, this is my fifth business, so I've had to look at P&Ls for a long time and learn more and more and more. And thankfully, back to being bootstrapped, this started with me by myself making like income from consulting and then figuring out what I was spending on. Like I was running QuickBooks myself for the first 2 years, I think. So I had to just learn. I went to, undergraduate business school, so there's a little bit there.
Mhm.
And my dad was an entrepreneur, taught me numbers. I always had a head for numbers because I was raised that way. We used to like arc on car rides instead of playing, I Spy or, playing or singing songs, we'd do math games and money games. Like he'd be like, I have 2 dimes, a penny, and a quarter. How much is that? 46 cents. Like it was like quick mental math. And so it's still to this day, I'm really good at like I've almost have a photographic memory for numbers. So like I can remember what and understand numbers in a different way. That helps. And then on the finance side, like in terms of like investing, et cetera, my wife's in private equity. I've been with her almost 12 years, or no, 12 years. So I was exposed to that, and it reminded me of what I've seen with most industries. Once you get behind the hood or under the hood, you realize it's not that complicated. Like all
Yeah,
this stuff is pretty simple, and if it's complicated, it's probably going to fail. That's where you
yeah.
get the mortgage crisis in 2008 because of what are they? I forgot what they called them, but the derivatives that they built. Mortgage-backed securities and then but the derivatives off of mortgage-backed securities. Like this is where you get complicated and then people don't understand it and it fails. So same thing when it comes to all this is like you got to keep it simple, pretty straightforward. You learn along the way, you make mistakes, you move forward. And I think the thing I've realized more than anything goes back to like the only reason two companies fail is underwater financially to be responsible and like keep going, keep pushing, and pushing, not, and I think push is an important verb in this because it's not hanging out. It's not waiting for it to change. It's constantly trying to find how to fix things. We're in a great period in the business right now because at the end of last year we had a great meeting about where we were struggling. We identified some really key points and I looked at the leadership, which I also spent all last year. One of my issues was leadership and I brought in some really great people and looked at them and said, okay, we agree these are the problems. Yeah. How are we going to fix them? Figured out. Great. Boom. And now here we are having some of the best months we've ever had because we made the changes with the problems that we spotted and like, but it was proactive. It's not
Yeah,
waiting for it
yeah.
to get
And you
better.
were all in on it. I
Yeah.
like that. I like
And
that.
you just keep doing that. And again, like the days are long, but the years are short. Like it sometimes feels like a lot of work, but then you look
But
up
you're
and
having fun. I feel the
yeah,
energy from you. You're having fun. We've talked
yes,
about business. We've
yes,
talked about technology. We've talked
yep,
about finance. I want to
yep.
understand what is your next as you look ahead and you've talked about, hey, we're expanding opportunity. You got some things that in as you look at the future of marketing, entrepreneurship, growing your brand, what do you believe will matter most over the next 3 to 5 years that people are still underestimating, in your opinion, today?
Hmm. I mean, I think people.
Mhm.
I think I don't think that AI is going to change the fact that hardworking people are still going to make the world go around. And so, between all these companies trying to replace people with AI and all these people that are kind of unsold, like Gen Z's got an issue. They're like, if you look online at what these people are saying, a lot of these guys are saying, like, I mean Gen Z and all. I have some great Gen Z people here, but
Yeah,
like I'd say there's a different tone. Like millennials were brought up by mostly by parents that preached like work hard, bust your ass and you'll make something of yourself. And, yes, that doesn't always work. Some people bust their ass and they just don't get that stroke of luck and it sucks. Most of the time, really hard workers end up doing well. I've seen it too many times. I had a young guy come to one of our venture summits and it was all our LPs. So all these rich people that had given us money to invest hanging out. And he goes, what is one thing you think they all have in common? And I looked around because I know a lot of them very well. I was
yeah.
like, they all work their absolute ass off. That is what I see all these people have in common. That doesn't mean it's always going to be the case, but I think now there's a tone that hard work is what do they say? It's like taking advantage. I forgot the word they use, but it's if you're working hard for a company, you're getting taken advantage of. And it's like,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
that's not going to lead you to a very good spot because I can tell you as an owner, the people here that work hard do really well and advance and, end up crushing it. And the people that don't go very far. And then they blame everyone else. And so, and I'm not unique in that. That is how most people work. And, one of the most senior guys at the company started here as an intern and now bought his first house in LA. I thought, younger people couldn't afford houses. Well, apparently if you work your ass off and do a good job, you can. So I'm I think over the next 5 years, I'm hoping. So first, I think that companies are going to realize, oops, like we needed more good people, and this AI stuff is not advancing as much. And I think that people are going to realize, like the people that commit and work their ass off are going to see the benefits of that.
That's that mindset on the use of AI replace. I don't even know who started that or how they thought of that because it's a software application.
Yeah,
Like, so are you gonna just, replace the person that drives, like I said, Salesforce earlier, or
yeah,
software
exactly, and
can't
that's
drive
exactly it.
itself.
It's
I mean
like, yeah, I just had a guy reach out to me today, like, hey, if our AI could do your media buying for you, would that be create a lot of efficiency for you? I'm like, I don't trust AI is not doing our media buying for us. Like, is it going to create some efficiency so that my media buyers can focus more on like details that matter? Yes.
yeah.
Totally. Can it make us more effective? Yes. Is it replacing? No. And maybe
No. More
some of it.
insights,
Yeah.
more better data is what you
Yeah.
want. Better information. I look at the stack, what I call the AI stack, really it comes down to it's data information and really AI really owns that. When it comes to context, that's when it starts to fall apart. And that's what people are starting to see with hallucinations, drift, things like that. It's because it's not a consciousness, right? You're dealing
Yeah.
with pattern, pattern recognition, which is
Yep.
good for certain things. But when it comes to experience, when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to what the real playing field looks like, Like when you watch a football game, I always use this analogy and people begin to understand how technology works and how human beings operate, right? If
Yep.
I take the statistics, I'm talking about a football field, right? And I see, right, that Eric, most of the time he runs a 4-4 40-yard dash, right? And so
Yep.
you know what? I'm gonna run a play that unless he runs 4-3, he's not gonna be able to tackle me, right? And
Yep.
that's your precision that you have there. What you don't
Exactly.
understand is that that's something that's static and set in stone. Human beings are dynamic,
Yep.
right? You may have been running a
Exactly.
4-4 for a while, but all of a sudden you see an opportunity, you leaped to a 4-3 or 4-2, and you're like,
Yep.
whoa, where did that
Yep.
come from? That potential is always there. So that's what throws the calculations off.
That's exact. You're nailing it. It's what do people do? Like, and what I'd use in that example, I got new running shoes and now I run a 4.2. You never anticipated new running shoes because I
Yeah.
had never changed them. And it's like, so, in this dynamic, it's like we can't anticipate. So like to me, you can get really anxious trying to predict the future because it's impossible. And instead, it's like just work with what you have now, keep moving, and keep adapting. Because another one of my favorite recent metaphors I've talked about a lot is the joke about two guys are walking through the woods and a bear comes out and starts charging them. And one guy bends down to tie his shoes. The other guy looks at him and goes, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a bear." He goes, "I don't have to outrun a bear. I have to outrun you." That's how I feel about AI. I just have to stay nimble enough and, innovative enough to beat other people. So if my challenge is not beating AI, it's beating other agencies and other marketers, that's easy. I'm not
Mhm.
worried about that. I'm worried, if I spent all day trying to figure out like what crazy technology was coming or when aliens are going to arrive or whatever other unpredictable or crazy thing I want to pontificate on, that's a great way to drive yourself nuts. But here's where the facts we have now. And so what am I going to do with them and then move forward and pay attention?
I 100% agree with you. Can't anticipate. No one can anticipate everything, especially big moving things. And
Right.
now we've got a war going on. Who
Right.
predicted that?
Wait, I have the news right in front of me. Apparently, he announced that it's over.
Who
Yeah,
would
so
have thought of that?
yeah,
Right? So I hope it is, because
yeah,
maybe
I
I
hope he's
might
right.
come
But geez,
forward.
the
Uh,
market just went from down 2 points today to up a point. So
it's a volatile world. We live in a volatile world,
yeah.
and but understanding use cases and when to use certain tool sets. There's tool sets. There's nothing wrong, but skill sets are very big. Mindsets are very, very, very
Well,
big.
and it's adaptability. I mean, at the
Yep,
end of the day, like
yep.
I even think about like, what if it all went away? The internet went away and we ended up back in like, having a deal hand to hand. Like, well, I know how to make deals and do business and work with people and we'll figure it out. Like, it's just, you got to adapt to the times and have some basic skill sets. If your entire career is locked up into like one type of programming language, yeah, you're in trouble. All you know how to do is run Facebook ads and you don't understand the concept behind them. Yeah, you're in trouble. But like, if you take a step back and just understand how the dynamic of people in the world works, you'll be fine.
I think you're 100% right. Do not sleep on the fundamentals and
Correct.
the basics and learn from somebody who's walked in the path that you want to get into. So if you're a
Mhm.
marketer, maybe you've been doing 2, 3 years. Wow, you know what? Maybe I need to go get that book that Eric is talking about. Maybe I need to up my game and really understand how to be more resilient in what I'm doing. Because I have the brave framework. That's my framework, right?
Uh-huh.
And you got to be brave out here in what you're going to do, but that's an acronym. I believe you've got to be bold, you got to be resilient, you got to be authentic in what you're doing. Then you get valuable, you get visible, you got velocity, and then you can execute at scale once you have all those things in place
Yep.
to get to
Easy.
where to go, right?
What do I agree?
So one last thing, and that is, and I'm going to give you the floor because I believe, especially my guys that are doing big time marketing and what you're doing. Tell us why, and as if you're talking to your ideal client, why should we do business with you?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, we're fulfilling our mission. We're one of the best at what we do. I will never say we're the best. There's other good ones out there too, but we're one of the best at what we do. And with that, we're easy to work with. So we're cost effective, nimble. Like if you're a growth stage company, you're not talking to us and other people that are as good as us. You're talking to us and probably some rinky-dink little agency. 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, I should say. So there's a good chance we're your best option, and we've done great work, and we have hundreds of case studies to show for that. We have an incredible team and of talent and people that, again, back to how we've built this company, like we really invest in our people and we make sure that they're ready to work their ass off. We call this place, we like to say it's not a family, it's a sports team. We love you. While you're here, we got your back. And if you're not performing, we're going to talk about the great times and you're going to send you on your way. Like it is a place for high performers. And if you're trying to build a great company, do you want a team that's already been to the Super Bowl or you want a Pee Wee football team? Like
Exactly.
that's what we've built at this point. And what I, sought out to build 12 years ago. And so now the things I'm focused on is leaning into that growth, leaning into that platform. We brought on the head of global operations from Mogilvy to help, systematize the place. Like it's a powerhouse now, but it's the only business or agency of its kind that still works with small and medium businesses and can
Nice.
give that Fortune 500 marketing to the masses.
I think that's very, very important. How do we get in touch with you? Because I know everybody's like, all right, I got it all. I'm in. Maybe I need a job, or maybe I
Yeah.
need to hire you. How to do that?
On social, @ Eric Huberman, pretty easy to find. And then if you want the team, it's just hawkemedia.com. Can always do it. We run a free audit for any business, just to be like, here's the stuff we could do. Here's what you should look at. So that's easy too.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to encourage your entire everybody out there in the Hawk universe. I know you're out there flying around. If you want to see all the episodes of Fellow Brand, you can do so at 5 Star BDM. That is the number 5. That is star. B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. You brought so much value to us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. You take care of yourself. Bye bye.
You.